Pastor Mike Hoggard, pastor of Bethel Church in Festus, Missouri, and head of prophetic research ministry with another Watchman video broadcast. Glad to be with you today. Today is Sunday, May the 2nd. Yesterday was a pretty big day, and I don't know if you caught everything that happened yesterday or exactly what yesterday was, May 1st, but we're going to be talking about this in this edition of the Watchman video broadcast. Got some things I'm going to talk about. First, some things that I'm creepy about. I'm not creepy, but some things that creep me. Some things that I think something needs to be watched because I think I see something coming around the corner. The first story out of the chute is oil spill grows with little success stopping flow. BP's chairman defended his company's safety record and said Sunday that a failed piece of equipment, they call it an oil rig, was to blame for a massive oil spill along the Gulf Coast where President Barack Obama was headed for a first-hand update on the slick creeping toward American shores. Ooh. BP Chairman Lamar Mackay told ABC's This Week that he can't say when the well a mile beneath the sea might be plugged. See, they hadn't even plugged the well yet, but he said he believes a dome that could be placed over the well is expected to be deployed in 6 to 8 days. The dome has been made and workers are finishing the plan to get it deployed, Mackay said. He said BP officials are still working to activate a blowout preventer mechanism meant to seal off the geyser of oil. As you can imagine, this is like doing open heart surgery at 5,000 feet in the dark with robot-controlled submarines, Mackay said. BP spokesman Bill Salvin said Mackay was talking about the blow-up preventer as the failed equipment that caused the April 20th explosion. April 20th. Now, I'm going to stop right here. I'm going to be getting into some dates, not date setting, not for the time of the Lord's return or anything like that, but I'm going to be getting into some dates because dates are important. Some of the information I'm going to present to you today we actually have on a video called The Babel Conspiracy. If you don't have a copy of that video, get in touch with our ministry. We'll send you a DVD copy. Later on, hopefully this month, I will have a book version released called The Babel Conspiracy and be able to get that through our ministry. But anyway, I talk about in there things that are significant as far as numerics are concerned, numerology, occult numerology, how the devil and his people love to work and how they do things. And so April 20th is one of those dates, and I'll share with you why in just a little bit here. But anyway, I want you to think about let's be conspiracy oriented just for a minute, okay? Let's say that maybe, just maybe, there was an accidental oil rig fire, accidental this and that and the other, accidental that. It is going to cause probably one of the worst oil spill related catastrophes as far as widespread probably all the way from Louisiana. One of our watchers in Miami, Florida says that they are expecting actually the oil to come around the bottom of Florida and up the eastern coast of Florida. If that happens, it will be nothing short of a severe disaster. We don't want to downplay this at all. And I will tell you, in the words of Rahm Emanuel, Barack Obama's right-hand man, we should never let a good disaster go to waste. I don't know, but here they have Barack Obama has, and you have to understand the Obama administration, they operate purely upon how bad it is. Some catastrophe has to happen, like banking. Banking catastrophe, it's an utter failure, and the banks are going to go bad, and congressmen are warned there's going to be rioting in the streets with machine guns if we don't pass this banking reform bill. So they pass it and do this bailout. The healthcare system is in catastrophic failure. People are dying in the streets right now. Unless we reform it, boom, they pass the bill. An energy bill, cap and trade or cap and tax. Environmental bills meant to restrict man's carbon presence upon planet Earth. They're waiting in the wings. They won't pass those bills unless a disaster happens. Boy, see, we need a really good disaster. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue on April 20th, this oil rig blows up. Okay? We'll see what happens. Will they use this, whether accidental or contrived explosion, and this oil spill, will they use this to further an agenda? If I were a betting man, which I'm not, But my money is on the fact that I think they're going to use this. Watch this week to see if some government official or Obama himself coming out and saying, see, this is why we need to regulate more energy efficient this and that and the other, and tax this and that and the other, and do that. You watch and see if it doesn't happen, and then you'll get more people on the side of it. Here's another one. Senate revised amnesty. Washington, D.C. Amnesty will spell the death knell of this country if it's not stopped, says the organizer of a new campaign designed to flood the U.S. Senate with letters of sharp protest as it begins discussions of a sweeping new comprehensive immigration reform plan. Amnesty will tear this country apart, says Joseph Farah, founder and CEO of WorldNet Daily. When 70% of Americans support Arizona's dramatic and courageous action, we're going to talk about that, to fill the void of federal failure on policing our borders. Washington is about to flout the will of the people once again. Here's what he's talking about. You're hearing the Obama administration talk a lot about immigration reform. Well, you know, everything that Obama wants to do in this country has to do with reforming it or transforming it in some way or another. Transformation is the theme for the day, people, because we are being transformed in this country right now. We're having it done in our marriages, in our churches, and our denominations are being transformed. They're being changed, rearranged, restructured, rethought, rethinking, reimagining, reworking. They're doing all these re's on our churches, on our Bibles, on our ways of worship, and on our very nation itself. They're redoing everything, and that is the agenda right there, is to restructure everything. So Obama has this bill called immigration reform, and everybody says, well, you know, we need to reform it. We need to do something different. No, they just need to obey the laws that are on the books already. They need to. The federal government needs to allow the states to basically do what the law says to do, and that is arrest people that are illegal immigrants. In our area right here, just about 30 to 40 miles south of us, in a little town called Farmington, Missouri, one contractor was caught hiring. He was a building contractor, construction, was caught using those undocumented illegal aliens for his workforce in his little construction company down there. They arrested him. They arrested all the guys that were working for him that were illegals. They're going to throw the book at the contractor. Guess what happened to the undocumented workers? Some guy from the federal government made a phone call and said, let them go. So they let them go. Arizona passed a law, said, and it's real simple, and there's nothing unconstitutional about it, is that they have a right now in Arizona, local sheriff's departments, deputies, local police, law enforcement, have a right now to ask somebody, can I see your identification? Simple as that. When you pull somebody over, the cops have a right to ask them for a driver's license. And so now we're looking at a situation where Barack Obama is going to address this situation by basically giving amnesty to, I don't know how many, there is a number here, how many estimated illegal illegal people are out in this country. I think it's something like 12, 13 million, something like that, what they call undocumented workers. Okay? Well, number one, they are undocumented, but number two, not all of them are workers. They are illegal people inside of this country, and they need to, and here again, I'm not against people coming to this country to live. I'm not against that at all. What I'm against is somebody wanting to do it against the laws, the same laws that you and I have to abide by. For some reason, they don't have to abide by them in a liberal's mind. Liberals are so anti-law anyway. But when they start talking about amnesty, what they plan on doing is giving everybody that is in this country illegally right now, some 13 million people, and just go, poof, you're a citizen. That's what they're going to do. And, by the way, as long as we're making you citizens, we're going to go ahead and register you to vote in this coming November's election. You watch and see if it doesn't happen. But here is something else along with this that I think, now remember, this is a catastrophe, and they're going to take advantage of the catastrophe. And so check this article out. Democrats spark alarm with call for national ID card. There it is, folks. A plan by Senate Democratic leaders to reform the nation's immigration laws ran into strong opposition from civil liberties defenders before lawmakers even unveiled it Thursday. Democratic leaders have proposed requiring every worker in the nation to carry a national identification card with, here it is, biometric information. You know what that is, don't you? Such as a fingerprint or your DNA within the next 6 years, according to a draft of the measure. And some people are saying, aren't we already carrying national ID cards? No. You're carrying a state driver's license. And here again, the difference between state government and the federal government. And we have states standing up and saying, you're not going to do this in our state. And I would look for the same thing when it comes out to this. But remember, the agenda here doesn't have anything to do with stopping illegal workers from coming into this country, because you and I both know that most of these congressmen probably have one or two housekeepers that are undocumented working in their house, in their garden or whatever it is. Of course, with Barney Frank, they would be all male. But anyway, we already have that going on. It has nothing to do with making the American workforce stronger or making our nation stronger. It has everything to do with jamming down the throats of the American citizen this national ID card with biometric information. It doesn't take too much of a guess to see the leap between a national biometric identification card and the right to buy and sell based upon whether or not you have a government mark or not. Revelation 13, go read it, because that's what I think this is all about. Oh, by the way, the article says the National ID program would be titled the Believe System, an acronym for Biometric Enrollment, Locally Stored Information, and Electronic Verification of Employment. I wonder if they named it after the one that they believe in. We'll find out. Now, today, as I said, is May 2nd. I put together some articles, some the other day and one today. U.S. immigrants plan huge May 1st marches for reform. Now, they've done this before. This is from Los Angeles. Thousands of mostly Hispanic immigrants will march in U.S. cities Saturdays to press for immigration reform and condemn Arizona's controversial new immigration law, organizers said. It's important we unite to take part in a peaceful march to demand respect for our community's rights and dignity. Organizers on Thursday said thousands of people will take part in marches in 70 U.S. cities, with Los Angeles staging one of the biggest that will include musician Gloria Estefan and other top-rated Hispanic entertainers. Under the slogan, Todos Somos Arizona, which means we are all Arizona, the demonstrations will focus opposition against recently passed legislation to curb illegal immigration in the southwestern state, which critics say enshrines racial profiling. Well, to be totally honest with you, we don't have a problem with Swedes getting into our country from Mexico through Arizona. I'm just saying, okay? You have to use a little common sense here, people. I'm against racism. You guys know where I stand on this thing. But the people that come to our country illegally from Mexico are Mexicans, and they just happen to all have somewhat of the same appearance. There's no denying that. But here's what I wanted to get. This is another article that came out today, or actually was dated yesterday. It says, anger over Arizona immigration law drives U.S. rallies. Angered by a controversial Arizona immigration law, tens of thousands of protesters, including 50,000 alone in Los Angeles, rallied in cities nationwide demanding President Barack Obama tackle immigration reform immediately. Now, I will tell you this. There are grassroots efforts, which you can look at the Tea Party, and certainly, of course, I suspect that even the Tea Party movement is now being taken over from the top down. That's a scary thing. That's not what we want to happen, and so that's why I'm not part of a Tea Party organization, 501c3 or anything like that. I think enough individual people stand up and they make their voice known, and then we'll see what happens. But you and I both know that the liberal left has an agenda, and they like to take things like this, and they like to organize in communities, which Barack Obama was a community organizer, and they like to stir up the pot, as it were, and get all these. So I don't think for a minute that this was all just a spontaneous overflow of Hispanics out in the street saying, we don't like this. No doubt in my mind that some massive amount of organization was taking place on this deal. So 70 cities all across the country And it happened on May 1st. All over the country, you have these people protesting this law and demanding, we want immigration reform. You'll have people saying, we want petroleum oil reform. We want this and that reform. And it's being stirred up to get these laws passed. There's an agenda. An ID card is part of an agenda. Everything, I believe, has a plan to it. Here's another article from yesterday. Governor Patterson says car bomb an act of terrorism. The New York Police Department is checking surveillance cameras around Times Square Sunday as they search for suspects in the car bomb scare. We're in the process of identifying additional cameras which may have captured images of the vehicle and, more important, people seen driving or leaving the vehicle, said New York PD Commissioner Ray Kelly. The FBI is also involved in the investigation. The article says an SUV found parked on 45th Street Saturday evening was loaded with explosives, smoking, and moments from blowing up when an alert T-shirt vendor noticed something wasn't right, alerted a mounted police officer. That officer, Wayne Radigan, evacuated the block and called for reinforcements. Now, these two significant major events. Now, the car bombing would have been a major event had the car bomb actually gone off. They already suspect terrorism. There's some who are sort of wanting to lean toward the idea that this was domestic terrorism. You know, Timothy McVeigh's on the loose again, trying to blow up another building. It wouldn't surprise me a bit if they blame this on some of these guys that was on the, we talked about this list last week, some of these guys that are on this list, they try to blame these people for something like that. It wouldn't surprise me a bit, because things like this have an agenda, and especially when they happen upon certain days. Now, several years ago, let me tell you how it came about this. Several years ago, in fact, right after September 11th, 2001, I kept getting emails from people. In fact, I had a friend of mine, he was an associate pastor here, and he said, Hoggy, what do you think? He used to call me Hoggy. Hoggy, what do you think about this? And it was an email describing how this number 11 shows up on this as a signature on September 11th. And I said, well, I don't know, but I'll look into it. And God was sort of showing me numbers in the Bible. And then God used this to show me that the devil operates along lines of patterns and things like that. He uses numbers and specific days because of the occult power that he gets, the occult significance that they deal with, and so on. And so and by the way, let me just say this. April 20th is a date. If you look on the calendar, you count days from January 1st down to April 20th, you have, that is the 110th day of the year. That is 11 times 10. Now, that number is the exact height of both World Trade Centers. 11 times 10, 110. April 20th, Hitler's birthday. It is the date of the Columbine shootings. The Columbine killings were two men, demon-possessed, no doubt in my mind about it, two students. Now listen to this now. They killed a teacher and 12 students. Think about that. A teacher, rabbi, master, and 12 disciples. That was the spiritual significance of the Columbine shooting. The Columbine, the word column, is a Latin word for dove. Now the dove is significant. Of course, everybody says, oh, that's the Holy Spirit. The dove is significant in the occult world as a symbol for, here it is, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. So I want you to think along those lines. This conspiracy is real, and it's genuine, and it follows predictable, almost predictable patterns. Now, I have never been able to tell the future with any of this stuff, but when it happens, I always look back and say, okay, I know why that happened, I know why that happened, I know why that happened. So let's take our Bible, let's look at, very briefly, and I'm talking about this, or have been, in our Bible study, Wednesday night Bible study in the book of Genesis. You can get that at sermonaudio.com/Bethel. And I believe we have at least last Wednesday's posted on there. But anyway, Genesis chapter 11. The Genesis chapter identifies the meaning and the theme behind a given number. It says the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. So here we have this idea, and we all know what's going to happen. They're trying to build a tower. So it says, verse 3, and they said one to another, go to, let us make brick and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone and slime for mortar. Verse 4, and they said, go to, let us build us a city and a tower whose top may reach into heaven. Let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. Now, A lot of things play into this, and I'm going to try to go through this in a little time, get our video on the Babel conspiracy and the mother of all secrets and things like that for more clarification. The exact number of words spoken here in Genesis 11 verses 3 and 4 is exactly 46 words. Not the total number of words in the verses, but what they said. They said one to another, go to. So you start there counting their words. 46 words exactly. That relates to our chromosomes, the two pillars of Jacob and Boaz, the steps that are in the Mother Lodge of Freemasonry in Washington, D.C., total number 46. That number has everything to do with man's DNA. That is the exact same number of words spoken by the serpent in Genesis chapter 3 when he went after Eve to tempt her. And so there is a theme, a pattern emerging here. And so the Twin Towers, the World Trade Center, represented Jachin and Boaz and the plan to rebuild in man's image instead of God's. And so, verse 5, the Lord came down to see the city and the tower, which the children of men builded. And the Lord said, behold, the people is one, and they have all one language. And this they begin to do, and now nothing will be strained from them which they have imagined. Remember how imaginations play into this. Paul said, casting down imaginations, and every high thought that is lofty against God, or something like that. But imaginations is where images come from. What we see, and we all know this, what we imagine to do, mankind has a reputation that if he imagines it, he'll do it. And God recognizes this. So in verse 7 he said, let us go down and there confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. So God did that. Verse 9, therefore is the name of it called Babylon, or Babel. Chapter 11, verse 9. That is a reverse 9:11. Because the Lord did there confound the language of all the earth, and from thence did the Lord scatter them abroad from the face of all the earth. Now, I won't get too much, but I want you to just think of this theme of rebuilding the Tower of Babel, rebuilding man's effort at gaining access to heaven. And I want you to think about those themes, because that's what we're dealing with. We're all dealing with a new world order system somehow, some way. So taking that principle in mind, I just started looking at dates. I started counting days on the calendar year, coming up with dates that were divisible by 11. April 20th is one of those dates in a regular year that is divisible by 11. It is 11 times 10, the 110th day of the year. If you jump forward exactly 11 more days, you end up with May 1st. And we're going to talk about that. Here are years that are divisible by the number 11. 1914, 1925, 1936, 1947. That is the year that, number one, Kenneth Arnold saw this flying saucer. And also in 1947, you have the whole Roswell incident there. Has to do with aliens and the fallen angels and all this stuff. That was 1947. 1947 also is the year that Israel was declared a state by the United Nations. 1958, that's when NASA was formed. 11 years later, after the Roswell incident. 11 years later, in 1969, we're sending people to the moon in Apollo what? 11. 1980, Marilyn Ferguson comes out with the Aquarian Conspiracy. 1991, George Bush gives a speech called the New World Order Speech. 2002, we go to war with Iraq. And then 11 years after that, we get this now, would be 2013. Okay? Everybody's talking about 2012. Well, 2012 goes all the way up. This whole idea of 2012 goes all the way up till the end of 2012. December, I think, 21st, 22nd, something like that. December 21st, 2012. And most of the New Agers especially don't believe it's going to be the total end of everything. They believe it's going to be a restarting of a new world. When? In 2013. That number is evenly divisible by 11. We have dates divisible by 11, such as February the 2nd. That's the 33rd day of the year. Groundhog Day. If you've seen the movie Groundhog Day, it has to do with levels. This guy goes in cycles like reincarnation, and he's becoming more and more perfected every day on the 33rd day of the year. April 20th, we talked about. May 1st, we're going to deal with that. December 7th, 1941. On December the 6th, the United States is not going to get involved in a world war. December 7th, that date's divisible by 11. Now we are going to get involved. You see, the powers that be, the conspirators, principalities, powers, rulers of darkness, spiritual wickedness in high places, they are gaining more and more control, and they do it through phases, through rituals. And if you know anything about Freemasonry or even Catholicism, all of these groups, all these missionary groups, operate in rituals, prescribed rituals, things that they have to do to invoke the power of the gods. And so that's what we're dealing with here. So let's look at the date of May 1st, and let's go back to one of the most famous events that took place. Here you have a Jesuit priest by the name of Adam Weishaupt, who on May 1st, 1776, and some say that the date on the bottom of the pyramid on the back of the dollar bill, 1776, alludes to not the date of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, but the date of the forming of a secret society called the Illuminati. Actually, they were called the Illuminati later. Weishaupt originally dubbed them the Order of Perfectibilists. Perfectibility means the order that is going to bring about a time when man is going to achieve a perfect state. Genesis 3, 46 words. Genesis 11, 46 words. Recreating man's DNA to bring him to a perfected state. That's what this Illuminati scheme is all about, and he formed this on May 1st, 1776, the 121st day of the year, which is 11 times 11. So we look at themes of the restoration of Babel, or what Babel represented. If you look, and this is on our video, but anyway, the European Union, all of these nations joining together in one. Here is the calendar, or the poster for the European Union, and it says Europe, many tongues, one voice. That is the exact opposite of what God cursed them under in Genesis chapter 11. And I'll just say this, you take it for whatever it's worth. Confusion of languages is judgment against man. Okay? The perfecting of language and the understanding of language is God's blessing to man. That's why I believe in this King James Bible. It is the translation or the interpretation of three unknown tongues into one tongue by which we can understand. Understanding languages and principles and words is from God. Not understanding them, just take it where you want to. But notice on this poster here, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 pentagrams surrounding this rebuilt Tower of Babel. They built the European Parliament building for the EU. Notice that it has the exact same theme as the Tower of Babel. We talked about reaching into heaven. 1958, NASA was formed by an act of Congress. Exactly 11 years later, you have Apollo 11 reaching into heaven. You have an eagle building a nest upon the stars. That is what is that? Obadiah chapter 1, I believe, where he talks about that. That happened in 1969. That was a multiple of 11. In the year 1969, not in the year 1969, but the Eagles wrote a song. The Eagles, get it, wrote a song called Hotel California. This was about the first Church of Satan formed on California Street in San Francisco in 1969. You hear words in here, and there's some backward masking in this song, but you hear words in this song that talk about they stab it with their stealing eyes, but they just can't kill the beast. He's talking about the beast in this song. And then he said, I asked the lady, please bring me my wine. And she said, we haven't had that spirit here since 1969. That's the year that Anton LaVey came out with the Satanic Bible. All of this denotes the coming age of Aquarius. The Aquarius symbol is designated as number 11 out of 12 zodiac signs. And the song, The Dawning of the Age of Aquarius, was released in 1969. Exactly 11 years later, you have the Aquarian conspiracy coming out with this triquetra. We know that is a symbol for 3-strand DNA. 11 years later, you have George Bush saying it is a big idea, a new world order, where diverse nations are drawn together in common cause. Okay, so you have e pluribus unum. Diverse nations coming together, the forming or the bonding of a new world order. And he said only the United States has both the moral standing and the means to back it up. I'm telling you, this nation is highly significant in building a new world order. Where else but in the new world would you have a new world order? Now let's get back to this date of May the 1st. As we said earlier, it is the 121st day of the year. And a lot of people know it as Mayday, or there is a pagan festival called Beltane. Beltane, I believe, literally means fire of Baal. And you see here the name Baal in the word Beltane, such as Baal, Bel, Belial, Beelzebub. All of these are names for the devil, or names for the Antichrist. And basically that represents Baal's day. Now, the May 1st is actually, you have the spring equinox here and you have the summer solstice. And remember, everything is about fusion or a center point. So May 1st is actually the center point between the spring equinox and the summer solstice. It is the day that is exactly in the middle. It's like where the two things converge and meet together. That is the calendar significance of May 1st. We looked at the numbers. The 121st day of the year, 11 times 11. Beltane, or Baal's fire, is always or usually celebrated, especially among the pagans, by this fire. You have these women dancing around this fire. Now, fire is always a symbol in the occult world of the God who is on fire right now. We know him to be, Revelation chapter 9, verse 11, Abaddon, or Apollyon. He is the king of the bottomless pit. And that is who they are worshiping and celebrating on that day. Jeremiah chapter 19 verse 5 says this: they have also built the high places of Baal to burn their sons with fire for burnt offerings unto Baal, which I commanded not, nor spake it, neither came it into my mind. Jeremiah chapter 7 verse 8, the Bible says, behold, ye trust in lying words that cannot profit. Will you steal? Yeah, this country will steal, people will steal, murder, commit adultery, and swear falsely, and burn incense unto Baal. God considers it as equal a crime to burn incense unto Baal, or to have a feast unto Baal, or Beltane, as adultery, lying, and murdering, and stealing. And he said, and walk after other gods whom you know not. And come and stand before me in this house, which is called by my name, and say, we are delivered to do all these abominations. Jeremiah chapter 7 verse 11. Is this house, which is called by my name, become a den of robbers in your eyes? Behold, even I have seen it, saith the Lord. But ye go now unto my place, which was in Shiloh, where I set my name at the first, and see what I did to it for the wickedness of my people. Romans chapter 11. Notice all these 11s here. But what saith the answer of God unto him? I have reserved to myself 7,000 men who have not bowed the knee to the image of Baal. And I just want to I wanted to use these verses because I want to tell you that the more pagan our country becomes, the more pagan our churches become, the hotter the fiery wrath of God is going to come down upon a nation. A nation or a people or a church or anybody who choose to serve Lucifer or Baal more than God, choosing to serve him at all instead of God in their lives. The fiery judgment of God is going to come down. Now, here's the theme, one of the themes that I want to look at, and this is important, because in Genesis chapter 11, it was mankind's effort to all unify so they could all work together. That spirit is the spirit of Babel, the spirit of Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots, getting everybody to just get along, a united nations, all the denominations worshiping in the same place, all the churches, all the world's religions getting together, and oh, isn't God great? And I'm telling you, God's spirit says, take a look at that now. They're not following me, they're not serving me. So instead of you joining with them, I want you to come out and be separate, saith the Lord. And God reminds us in Romans chapter 11, He told Elijah, He said, Elijah, here's what you don't know, but I have reserved to myself 7,000 men who have not bowed the knee to the image of Baal. And I want to tell you something. When everybody else falls, I want to still be standing. When everybody else kneels and bows to the image of Baal, I want to keep on standing. That's what I want to do. I want to be one of the separated people that doesn't fall for the things of this world. I'm actually looking to a higher thing. I've talked earlier about some of the festivals they do on May 1st, the Feast of Beltane. One involves all of these young ladies that are doing this seductive dance. It doesn't look seductive when it's done in your village or at your school. Schools are doing it. But they're called May Queens, and they're dancing around this big image of Baal. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But I have compared these little strands that they're wrapping around this pole. to be identical to DNA. In fact, there's the symbol of the caduceus, which is these DNA strands being wrapped around this pole. This pole is the image of Baal himself. It is Baal's shaft, or an obelisk, or something that represents the male organ of Baal, is what it is. Some things that I feel have been significant, maybe the world didn't see them that way, but I think are significant, that have happened upon this particular day that follow a particular theme. We have a whole article on this on the Hogg blog, www.mikehoggard.com. And if you'll just search for the name Deborah Jean Palfrey, or you'll search for something like that, you'll see the entire article. But if you don't know who that was, she was known as the D.C. Madam. Now I'm going to show a picture here. You might not want to see it. She was the D.C. Madam. She was a prostitute in Washington, D.C., that catered to politicians, heads of state, big business leaders. I mean, you name it, that's who she catered to. And you can imagine, she had a long list of names and phone numbers. And I don't know exactly what happened, but I know that she probably at some point decided she wasn't going to play the game anymore. They arrested her. They had a trial. They were going to sentence her. She was on, I believe, the Alex Jones radio show a week before her sentencing. And she was living with her mom and dad. And he asked her, do you have any plans on committing suicide? And she said, no, absolutely not. Well, the day before she was sentenced, they found her in her mom and dad's garage. And here's the image of it, hanging. Now, this all happened on May 1st, 2008, the 121st day of the year. The thing that struck me about this image was, notice that she's hanging, and she has one sleeve rolled up and one sleeve rolled down. That is precisely what you'll see when someone enters into the Blue Lodge of Freemasonry, is that they have one sleeve rolled up, one sleeve rolled down. They have a noose about their neck. The noose, as you know, cursed is anyone that hangeth from a tree. This noose image is a picture of the Antichrist. The one sleeve rolled up and one sleeve rolled down, they describe that as opposites. Notice it's on opposite arms. And so it's naked but dressed is what they call it. It is the fusion of opposites in one body. It is a highly occult Freemasonic symbol. I also found this back in 2007. You had the Los Angeles Mayday melee, which occurred May 1st, 2007 at MacArthur Park, when protesters began blocking the street. Police ordered the crowd to disperse. Some people did so, but others began rioting. Those at Los Angeles Police Department responded with tear gas, rubber bullets, and batons. A $13 million settlement was paid over allegations of rights violations. And here it was. It was protesters out protesting immigration laws. They were protesting the fact that and this is not, when you go from one country to another and don't obey the laws, you're not immigrating, okay? You're just trying to sneak in like people do at a movie or something like that. But it all had to do with immigration ideas. If you remember, I think it was back in 2004, May 1st, 2004 is the day that was picked. Some say Bush picked it himself. I don't know. I don't think he was the bad guy behind all the bad things that happened in his administration. I'm not giving the guy a pass. I'm just saying I don't think it was all him. I think there were powers that be that were moving and shaking this situation. But here he is on May 1st, I think it was 2004, declaring that the Iraq War was over. We know it wasn't over. Okay? It was still going on. They're still fighting for several years after that. In fact, some of them still fighting now. And so why this day was picked? That's because I believe that there is a link now, a strong link, and I don't think will ever be done in Iraq, between the United States of America and Babylon. Remember, the ancient city of Babylon is in Iraq. Okay? So there's a connection between Washington, D.C. and Babylon, Iraq. The interesting connection about all of this is that the location of Washington, D.C. and the location of Babylon, Iraq, there's exactly 121 degrees between them. 11 times 11. So here on May 1st, the 121st day of the year, we declare victory in Iraq. And now D.C. and Babylon are joined together. I just think that's interesting. Here's what the Bible says. And there followed another angel saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she made all of the nations of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. Now, I'll tell you this. I'll tell you where I'm going with this. And I'm going to have to quit talking here. I have a massive sore throat today. I mean, I'm just like getting every word out in agony and pain. And so I'm going to quit talking here in a little bit. Our nation, I believe, was founded upon this Bible right here. Okay? In spite of what some other people say, I think the heart of America exists because of this Bible. We're seeing a situation right now where the people of God are turning themselves over to the spirit of Babylon, Mystery Babylon. And I will tell you, and God gave us an example by ancient Babylon. Ancient Babylon is a city that was destroyed. Okay? It wasn't until Nebuchadnezzar II, Saddam Hussein came back and rebuilt it again. And there's all kinds of spiritual things with that as well. But I think that Babylon was to be an image in the minds of any city, just like Sodom and Gomorrah, of any people that decided that the world's way and the devil's way and the way of sin was better than God's way. I'm telling you that God's way is better. And when you follow God, you'll stand and you'll remain standing. When you follow after the devil, you will fall. And that's all there is to it. Babylon has fallen, that great city. Notice that it says it twice. Okay, that's the language of the Scripture. A partial fulfillment and a future perfect fulfillment in the last days. And then Revelation chapter 18, verse 2. He cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen and has become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and the cage of every unclean and hateful bird. For all the nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her. And the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, that you be not partakers of her sins, and that you receive not of her plagues. Now, Babylon is a big concept, and no, I don't believe that it's just Washington, D.C. I don't believe that it's just the Vatican, but I believe that it includes all of that. And this whole idea of Babylon is a big concept. But I will tell you that Babylon represents basically the entire world and the world systems. And what I'm going to encourage you to do is to come out of the world. Come out. Okay? Now, I'm not saying move to Montana where you got a little ranch there and you're not going to be bothered by anybody. Unless, of course, you already live on a ranch in Montana, okay? Then I might move in with you. But anyway, coming out of the world's systems, okay? Don't be partakers of the world, which means don't follow after the worldly amusements. Don't follow after worldly ways. Don't listen to the world's advice. Listen to God's advice. Follow God's ways. Follow God's path. Yes, we have to live in this world. Yes, living in this world requires money. Yes, our money has an Illuminati signature on the back. Yes, the financial institutions of our country are owned by rich bankers all over the world, and on and on and on. Yes, I understand all that, but we have to eat. Okay, there's a difference in being in this world and being of this world. And I want to tell you, if you're part of this world, and I've said this before, and I will say this again. Because there might be some really good conspiracy theorists out there that are watching this. I hope you are, okay? Because I are one of you. I am a conspiracy theorist. Man, I get it, okay? I get the conspiracies. But I want to tell you, if you're not born again, if you're not saved, if you're still harboring sins and a sinful lifestyle in your heart, you're as much a part of a New World Order system as you think the Bilderbergs, the Rockefellers, the Bush family, as you think anybody else is. You're just as much a part of it. There are only two types of people in this world: saved and lost. That's it. And I want to ask you today, are you saved? Are you born again? Have you called upon the name of the Lord to be saved? Well, I don't believe in religion. Well, I don't care. Okay? I'm telling you, are you saved? You're going to go stand before Him when you die. When the government troops come in and shoot you for being on the red list, which I believe, when you die, you're going to stand and give an account to God. And God's not going to ask you, are you a patriot? Were you part of the militia? Did you watch Glenn Beck every day? Yeah, because if you did, I'll let you in. That's not what God's going to say. God's not going to say, well, you were a Tea Party, so I'm going to let you in. No. He's going to look at the book. And if your name and all the sins that you committed, by the way, they're all written down. If all of those sins that you committed are written down, they're not covered red with the blood of Jesus Christ, you're going to end up in the same burning hell as Lucifer, all of his angels, all the unsaved Rockefeller clans, all of the Adolf Hitler. You're going to end up there with all of them for all of eternity. And it won't matter that you went to a Tea Party. And it won't matter that you gave somebody a pirated copy of Alex Jones' video. It won't matter. Okay? Because your sins were not covered in the blood of Jesus Christ. And God loves you so much. He loves you enough, and He cares about you, and He wants you to be saved. And I know we do this Watchman broadcast, and we talk about all the issues, and sometimes the gospel just gets left out of it. Well, I'm throwing it in today. And I'm going to ask you today, are you saved? And you know what? Whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. And if we're going to be standing in line together to get our heads cut off, then after that, I would like to see you around the table of Jesus Christ in heaven for all of eternity. I love you. I've got to quit talking now. You pray for my throat. Pray for our ministry. Pray for our country. There are some things I believe coming right around the corner. Let's be watchmen on the wall. Let's warn people. Let's get the message out. Time is running out. This is Pastor Mike. I love you. I'm praying for you. I appreciate you praying for me. If you'd like to get on our watchers list and receive all of our materials on a monthly basis, just send us your name and postal address and we'll get you on that list. We ask for just a monthly donation of any amount whatsoever to help us with our cost. If you can't do that, just ask to be put on the list anyway. We haven't turned anybody down yet. So thank you for that. Thank you for all the support. God bless you. I love you. We'll see you on the next Pure Bible Study. I'm glad I have a Pure Bible to study. Y'all have a good week. Take care. Bye-bye.